Welcome back to Reading with Miss Michelle. Today we're going to read Disney Pixar Up. If you have a copy, go get it so you can read along with me. Don't forget to help us out by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with all of your friends. Carl Fredricksen wanted to be an explorer. His hero was the legendary explorer Charles Muntz. Carl's best friend was a girl named Ellie. The two dreamed of going on great adventures. One day, Ellie showed Carl her adventure book. Inside was a picture of Paradise Falls. Ellie made Carl promise to take her to Paradise Falls one day. "Cross your heart," she told him. Carl crossed his heart. He was certain that he and Ellie would have many adventures together. When Carl and Ellie grew up, they got married. Carl sold balloons from a cart, and Ellie took care of animals at the zoo. They were very happy together. Carl and Ellie tried to save money for a trip to Paradise Falls, but they could never collect quite enough. Many years went by. Ellie passed away, and Carl grew lonelier and lonelier. Then one day, a boy named Russell knocked on Carl's door. Russell was a wilderness explorer. He wanted to help Carl so that he could earn his Assisting the Elderly badge. Carl didn't want Russell's help. To get rid of him, he asked the boy to find a made-up bird called a snipe. Not long after that, Carl received some bad news. He was being sent to live in a retirement home. Carl was sad. All his memories of Ellie were in his house. Remembering his old promise to Ellie, Carl came up with a plan. He tied thousands of balloons to his house and set sail for South America. "We're on our way, Ellie," he said happily. As the house flew over the city, someone knocked at the door. Carl was confused. He was thousands of feet above the ground. Who could be knocking? It was Russell. He had been looking for the snipe under Carl's porch when the house lifted off. "Please let me in," Russell begged. Carl had no choice. He let the boy inside. Carl planned to let Russell off in the next town, but he never got the chance. The house flew into a storm. When the storm cleared, Carl could not believe his eyes. They had landed in South America. Carl was thrilled to discover that they were just a few miles away from Paradise Falls. "We could float right over there," he cried. And there was just one problem. Once they left the house, they couldn't get back inside. The house was too high off the ground. Then Russell had an idea. They could walk the house to the falls. Russell and Carl made harnesses from the garden hose and set off for the falls, pulling the house behind them. After they had walked for a while, Carl and Russell took a break. As Russell nibbled a chocolate bar, a beak popped out of the bushes and nibbled it too. When the creature emerged, Russell gasped. It was the biggest bird he had ever seen. Russell named the bird Kevin. Kevin liked chocolate. He liked Russell too. Russell wanted to keep Kevin, but Carl didn't. As they set out for Paradise Falls again, Russell quietly left a trail of chocolate for the bird to follow. Russell and Carl hadn't gone far when they met a talking dog named Doug. "My master made this collar so that I may talk," Doug explained. Doug had been sent on a mission to find the bird. He tried to capture Kevin, but the bird was too big. "Please be my prisoner," Doug begged Kevin. Then he grabbed onto the bird's leg and would not let go as the group continued their journey. That night, Russell was concerned. "Doug says he wants to take Kevin prisoner," he said to Carl. "We have to protect him." Carl thought for a minute and then agreed to let Kevin come with them to the falls. "Promise you won't leave Kevin?" Russell asked Carl. "Cross my heart," Carl answered. Satisfied, Russell went to sleep. The next morning, Carl and Russell found Kevin perched on the house's roof. The bird was calling to something in the distance. Doug explained the bird was calling to her babies. "Kevin's a girl?" Russell asked, surprised. Soon, Kevin left to go back to her home. Russell wanted to go with her, but Carl was in a hurry to get to the falls. "She can take care of herself," he said to Russell. The adventurers were about to start on their way again when 3 fierce dogs burst from the bushes. The dogs were part of Doug's pack. When they found out that Doug had lost the bird, they insisted on taking Carl and Russell back to their master. The dogs led Carl and Russell to a huge cave. Inside, Carl got a surprise. The dog's master was Charles Muntz, his childhood hero. Muntz had been in South America all these years. "My wife and I were your biggest fans," Carl said, shaking Muntz's hand. Happy to have guests, the explorer invited Carl and Russell aboard his airship, the Spirit of Adventure. Muntz told Carl and Russell about his search for the monster of Paradise Falls. As Muntz talked, Carl realized the monster was Kevin. When Muntz found out that the bird had been following Carl and Russell, he became angry. Muntz thought that the two were trying to steal the bird from him. "Get them," he told his dogs. Suddenly, Kevin appeared. The bird picked up Carl and Russell and ran out of the cave. Muntz tracked them down in his ship. "Get away from my bird," Muntz shouted at Carl. Then Muntz set Carl's house on fire. Carl couldn't let his house go up in smoke. It held all his memories of Ellie. As he ran to beat out the flames, Muntz's dogs grabbed Kevin and dragged the bird onto the airship. Russell was horrified. "You gave away Kevin," he accused Carl. Carl felt terrible, but he didn't know what to do. "I didn't ask for any of this," he told Russell. "Now, whether you assist me or not, I'm going to Paradise Falls if it kills me." Carl pulled the house the rest of the way to the falls, but Russell stayed behind. Carl had finally kept his promise to Ellie, but he still felt sad. He wished Ellie could have been on the adventure with him. Inside his house, Carl found Ellie's adventure book. He flipped through the pages. They were full of photos of their life together. At the end was a message from Ellie. It read, "Thanks for the adventure. Now go have a new one." Carl realized that Ellie had gotten her wish after all. Their life together had been an adventure. Suddenly, Carl heard a noise up on the roof. It was Russell. He had stolen a bunch of balloons and was going to save Kevin. Carl tried to follow, but without Russell's balloons, his house was too heavy. Carl had kept his promise to Ellie. Now he had to keep his promise to Russell. He pushed everything he owned out of the house until it was light enough to fly. Carl flew through a cloud and spotted the Spirit of Adventure. Then he saw that Russell was being held prisoner by Muntz. Russell was strapped to a chair. The chair was sliding down a gangplank. Russell was going to fall into thin air. Using a garden hose like a rope, Carl swung over to the ship and caught Russell before he fell. Once Russell was safe inside the house, Carl knew what he had to do. Carl and Doug went back into the ship to find Kevin. They found her in a cage surrounded by guard dogs. Carl grabbed a tennis ball from his cane. He had all the dogs' attention. When Carl threw the ball, all the dogs chased it right out the door. Carl unlocked the cage and set Kevin free. The bird ran for Carl's house. Soon after, Muntz appeared, and he was not happy to see that his bird was missing. Carl and Muntz fought, but Carl managed to escape. When the airship got close to Carl's house, Muntz jumped inside to capture the bird. Carl watched as his house slowly slid to the edge of the cliff with Doug and Kevin inside. Carl pulled a chocolate bar from his pocket and waved it at the bird. Kevin leaped for the chocolate, pulling Russell and Doug into the airship with him. Muntz wasn't so lucky. His foot caught on Russell's balloons and he drifted away. Carl's house crashed to the ground. Carl, Russell, and Doug flew Kevin home in the spirit of adventure. "Sorry about your house," Russell said to Carl. "You know," Carl answered, "it's just a house." It didn't seem quite as important to him now that he had good friends. Russell and Carl helped Kevin get to where her family was waiting. After a visit with her adorable chicks, they said goodbye to Kevin. Then Russell, Carl, and Doug boarded the Spirit of Adventure. They were going home too. Not long after they arrived home, Carl stood proudly by Russell's side as the boy received his Assisting the Elderly badge. Carl had something special to give him too, the Ellie badge. "Wow," Russell said, giving him a salute. Carl smiled. He knew that he and his new friends would have many more exciting adventures together. The end. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoyed listening to this book, and I hope you were able to read along with me. Don't forget to help us out by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with all of your friends. I hope you join me next time. Bye.